Brad Thomas. Hi, I'm Brad Thomas with NBC Sports EDGE, joined by Vaughn Dalzell and Eric Froton, and this is NBC Sports Live College Football Q&A. I got to say something. The boys are back. We are donning some of our old gear from teams that we played for, because I want you guys to know we are ballers, but we also love to watch football, watch hockey, watch every sport, and today our goal is to make a ton of money. Guys, let's start this off nice and easy. Let's talk about our guys, our goats, our beasts, the dudes we ride with, guys who make us a ton of money. Eric, kick it off with your first guy who's made you a boatload of cash this season.
Well, it's hard to believe we're in week 12 already, guys. Like, this is our 12th show, our 12th Saturday morning. I can't even believe it. It's a whirlwind, but, we love literally every second of college football season, and especially when it comes to, for myself, player props. And I want to list a few of the guys who have been especially kind and generous to us and the listeners over the course of this show. First off, a guy that I'm again recommending today at 71.5 rushing yards, his under, Jaden Ott, running back, California, been extremely kind to us. Had that momentous 223-yard breakout several weeks ago. But since then, it's like the books have been assuming he's going to be that runner every single game. And this is the Cal offense. No offense to Justin Wilcox, their head coach, but he is a defensive-minded individual, and they simply have not been able to establish a very effective run game. They've really had to have Jack Plummer throwing the ball to Michael Sturdivant, as well as, their other Hunter, Jeremiah Hunter, on the outside. It's pretty much been the only thing they could do to move the ball. Yep. As a result, they've been down. Jaden Ott at 71.5 rushing yards, he isn't getting there. He's been in the 40-50 range, yet they've been putting him up in the high 60s, even over 70 this week. Look, I know they're playing Stanford. I get it. Terrible defense, but I got to ride it. He's cashed for us like 4 times, Jaden Ott, since that big game, and I got to go with him. Next, the immortal. I assume we're going to have 2 Spencers here that are quarterbacks who are going to be a part of our favorites. My Spencer is, of course, Spencer Rattler. Shake the rattle every time Spencer Rattler gets out there over the past 6 weeks. I put him out 3 times. He's cashed every time. This week, it's 186.5 passing yards, where South Carolina, I don't know, last week against Florida, they were completely inept, 38-6, absolutely annihilated. I don't trust South Carolina's offense at all. I think they're just ready to literally pack up and be just head home. Yeah, call it a season. Thank you very much. Great job, Shane Beamer. We need an actual quarterback. Spencer Rattler, 186.5 under. I mean, he's been right as rain. He's just, thank you so much, Spencer Rattler, for not being able to pass downfield. And lastly, another play I really like for this week, dangerous Dominic Richardson.
Yes.
A month and a half ago, we were out here saying Mike Gundy has not been happy with the production he's getting from his rushing attack. And that's not something we're used to seeing on Oklahoma State, who has, an absolute landslide of very effective college running backs. Daniel Hunter. Not Daniel Hunter. What was that getting? Anyway, there's the Hunter, Chris Carson. Here we are. Just so many different great running backs. Yet here we are, Don Richardson, still at 70.5 rushing yards. I swear we've taken, he's been in the high 60s just like Ott, taking him week after week. I mean, it's literally, I think it's been 4 weeks in a row. We're going to make it 5 now on Dom Rich. He hasn't hit it yet. He's still over 70 yards. Love it. Give me dynamite Dom Richardson's under. Your turn, boys.
Go ahead, Vaughn. Tell me who your goats are, man.
A lot of Eric's goats sound like my NBA goats. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Tyrese Halliburton, John Morant. This is the type of production we like to see night in, night out, week in, week out. But, you said it, Spencer. I mean, are we going to take Spencer Petras's over today? Absolutely not. We're taking the under, and he's been Old Faithful. Brad, I saw you posting about the weather in this game.
Yeah.
It's going to be freezing. 18 degrees, a high of 20. They said it's going to feel like it's below 0 in this game. Spencer Petras getting sacked and hit at below 0 feeling temps. Yeah, good luck throwing a football the whole game. Tons of runs from both teams. And I got another prop for you guys because this is plus money on DK, but it's not on FanDuel. It's minus 114 on FanDuel. Wow. Him to not throw a touchdown pass with a total of 31 in this game. Loving that one. So, even at 1-1, you could split and, make a little bit here. So I'm totally fine with that one. And I have to ask you guys because our GOAT that's been a consistent overplay all season long has now become an underplay. And today it's moved over 20 yards because Eric moved it from 130.5 down to 106.5.
Yeah, Chase Brown needs to be in here.
Yes, he
does. He's
but it's an underbet. It's an underbet, right? It's an underbet, right?
The first one all season, but it was at 130.5 against Michigan, and he was banged up at the end of the game last week.
Yep.
Like there was conjecture whether he'd even play today, and they're playing Michigan's D.
Chase Brown has been our GOAT all season. Like we talked about this a little bit last week where we were getting Chase Brown for like 56, 60 yards in the beginning of the season, but he's definitely a smash the under at 136 this week. Michigan has one of the best rushing defenses in the country, if not the best. Banged up coming into this game. I don't expect him to even break the 100 mark. I want to just talk about my GOAT. I don't have a play on him this week because I wanted to do an alt line him. Blake Corum, Michigan's Blake Corum is my GOAT. I have won every bet with him this season so far, and I still have that Heisman future that we talked about a few weeks ago at 14-1. Blake Corum's line now is disgusting. For me to even get plus money on his line, I have to take over 140 yards in a touchdown, and that only gets me plus 110. So no Blake Corum, but one group of guys, I'm just going to put them all together, the skill players for Ohio State. We've hit Maya Williams at plus 300. We've hit Maya Williams at plus 375. We've hit Ibuka at plus 275.
Ibuka, I'm so sorry for omitting him. Thank you, Brad.
Yes. Now this weekend, we have Marvin Harrison Jr. over 89.5. It is still hanging on FanDuel at 88.5 receiving yards. One thing we know about this Maryland team, they're going to get boat raced, whether it's at home or at Ohio State. They are not good. Luckily for them, they're at home. They might get a little bit from the crowd. I actually think that plays to my advantage. When they played against Penn State, they were on the road. Penn State knew they could pack it in because they knew they weren't going to score. I need Maryland to score at least 7 points in here, so Ohio State try a little bit going into the second half. But what we know about Marvin Harrison, he is that dude. Anyone saw the catch last week, that proved that he's the dude. Maximum production against a secondary who's god-awful in coverage and a defensive line who struggles to get pressure on the quarterback. That has been C.J. Stroud's biggest issue all season was when he would not find his receivers downfield, it was because he was seeing pressure in his face. And I think a lot of that has been neutralized by him actually using his wheels. We know he doesn't have world-class speed. He runs like Tom Brady. But when you have a quarterback who at least poses a threat of picking up, moving the chains with their legs, it gives you a little bit more leeway in that second level to throw the ball because they're going to have to kind of think about what happens when all the players go deep. So those are our GOATs. Let's get in.
We omitted one. We omitted one that continued to cover last night. The Aztecs of San Diego State.
Oh, Vaughn says
they are my Oregon Trail wagon wheels, baby. I love everything about this team, and they just
Jaden Maiden.
Man.
Oh my God, I was watching that game last night, and I was like, man, I wonder if Vaughn has money on this game.
Absolutely. Now I woke up and I was like, when's the San Diego State play? But I was looking at the schedule and it was Friday, and I was like, yes.
early college football bread in your account.
Exactly.
That's what we like. Oh, you like to have a little momentum heading into Saturday morning.
Yes.
Absolutely. And Jaden Maiden.
Feeling great.
I watched that game as well last night because I'm West Coast, so I have nothing better to do. And dude, Maiden looks great.
Yeah.
Since coming in, he's just night and day from Braxton Burmeister. He's been awesome.
Yep.
Just nothing but great things to say about him. He's been the reason why San Diego State turned around. So props.
Yeah, props. Great cash. Guys, before I kick it over to our next segment, be sure to drop your questions down below. We're going to answer as many as we possibly can. We love you guys for the questions that you ask, because sometimes your questions lead us to placing other bets, and we become more profitable that way. But let's kick it over to the game of the week, one of the game of the weeks. TCU, undefeated TCU, the 2.5-point favorite, traveling to take on Baylor, total set at 57.5. I'll go ahead and kick this one off because I have another dog that we love in this game, and that's Kendre Miller, over 109.5 rushing yards, plus 110. I want to take this instead of his original line because I think it was only a 4-yard difference in his line when I got it last night. Kendre Miller leads college football in explosive runs of over 40 yards. If you look at every single game log, it tells you the story. He has these 50-yard runs, these 75-yard runs. If he gets the volume, which I expect him to get 20-plus carries, he's so dynamic that he is going to hit this number. I have him projected somewhere around 125. So I was totally cool with the 109. I also parlayed his original line of Oh, no, I'll parlay his alt line of 89.5 with Caleb Williams over 299 passing yards for plus 137. Eric gave me that look for Caleb Williams. So I was like, I'm going to take it because I was already on his passing touchdowns. I was like, I might as well double dip. That game's going to be an absolute shootout. But we'll talk about more about that game later when both Eric and I go through our plays from that game. Vaughn, do you have anything from the TCU game?
Yeah, well, when I looked at some of the lines in this game, of course, you look at trends. The trends were interesting because Baylor's terrible as an underdog against TCU. 1-5 on the money line, 2-4 ATS historically. But Baylor is a team that always played well as an underdog last season and this season. So, you want to take Baylor. But this is what really sold me on having to sprinkle Baylor. Obviously, I was on Texas last week. I played Kansas State against this team, Oklahoma State against this TCU team. I'm one of the people that haven't believed in the Horned Frogs, but they've continued to win. But when I wake up and I look at the sports book saying the odds to make the postseason, TCU sitting at plus 230, Tennessee sitting at minus 350. What are they telling you? That TCU is going to be taking a loss here this week, next week, some week. At some point, TCU is going to lose and their dream season will be over. So it's Baylor pass for me. I'm going to continue to fade TCU, although I'm already down units attempting to do this. But at some point, we're going to win.
Do you have anything from this game, Eric?
Yeah, in terms of, it seems like it's such a low line at 2.5. Like they're just begging you, like, oh, come on, Baylor went and dumped one last week to Kansas State and didn't look very good in the process of doing it. But in fairness, the previous few games, they played well. Oklahoma, they went and handled them, destroyed Texas Tech. Texas Tech was never in that game. Handled Kansas pretty well. So this is a Dave Aranda coached defense that when they game plan and when they're on their game, they're tough to move the ball against.
Yes.
So that's something that certainly obviously is a concern. But last week, TCU, we saw their defense come up big against Texas. That game was brutal to watch.
Not if you had the under. Remember, I had the under.
Who would have thought, TCU, Texas? But, Quinn Ewers, they were able to really bother him. He was out of sync all game. I went and did a full game cut that I put on Twitter of all his throws. And you can see, he just wasn't on. Did a great job disrupting him. So, with their defense finally bowing up and, being able to keep pace with their 15th ranked offense, I was extremely impressed. I don't feel comfortable taking Baylor even at home, the home dog scenario. TCU could be a team of destiny. Everything's going right for them. They're doing everything right. They're now winning with D. Kendre Miller, frankly, he should be in that conversation that we had about our favorite plays. He's been going over every single week, and they've been putting his line at very reasonable, high 90s, low ones. He's been crushing that. So I have to back the Horned Frogs here. I know I'm going chalk, but
it's one of your teams. But
I think that's fair too.
But this is again, you guys know me. I'm a big schedule and situational person. Again, this is the only time of the season where Baylor has had back-to-back home games all year for football. Yeah, that's definitely monumental. And they got smacked last week to Kansas State, 31-3. So you want to avoid embarrassment at home back-to-back weeks. This is your final home game to get up spot against an undefeated TCU team that only has one game left. We know how this usually goes for teams that are trying to make the playoffs or go undefeated. You got 1 or 2 games left. You're sweating. You're trying to make it through.
One. Yeah, right. It's Iowa State next week too, so that's another two tough defenses on the way out.
Yeah, I wanted to avoid the side or the total on this, and one thing that I said about Texas, and I still hold true, they have a strong enough run defense to keep that low scoring. Baylor's run defense is not any better than Texas, and you saw what Kendre Miller did to Texas. So I think that we see this game, just like Marty said, this game's going to be won on the ground by somebody. I just want to be on the right side of my bet. I don't care who wins the game as long as Kendre Miller goes ahead and runs for 110 yards. I don't even need any more than that. So I'm good with that. Our guy Kendre Miller is always holding it down for us. Let's move over to our best bets. Eric, 9-2. Brad, 7-4. Vaughn, 5-6. Vaughn, kick us off. Tell us why you like Boise State this weekend.
Well, I don't like Texas anymore, that's for sure. I thought we were going to continue our streak there last week, but I like a team that we've been riding the past few weeks. We are going with the Boise State Broncos. Man, they're playing Wyoming. They're going to Wyoming. And I've seen Wyoming becoming a popular bet today because people think Wyoming has been so good. But let me riddle you this. Wyoming has won 4 straight games. Yes, they have. They have beat New Mexico. They have beat Hawaii. They have beat Utah State and Colorado State. Congratulations to Wyoming football. In the last game, they had their quarterback switch because of an injury. So now they have a guy named Jaden Clemens playing quarterback at Wyoming. This will be his second career start. He went 19 of 13, 115 yards and a touchdown against Colorado State. They did win 14-13. But Boise State is a team that's been amazing. A 5-1 ATS streak since Taylon Green has become the quarterback. Hank Bachmeier left. This team is defense, 4th and 11th in total defense and scoring defense. And they've only let their opponents score an average 11.7 points per game in their wins this season, which is very, very impressive. So on top of that, Brad, you love weather. 20 to 30 degrees tonight in Wyoming with winds in the low 20s, approaching the mid-20s with a backup quarterback for Wyoming. Give me the Boise State Broncos. Let's go.
Weather games are literally how you make that money. Eric, what's your best bet?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with those weather games. You have to be careful, and we'll have a couple of those coming up. But, yeah, I've been saving my best bets each week for this segment. I've been laying off. I want to put some of them in the columns, but I lay off because I know I want to be able to deliver the goods on the show. 9-2 because I've got my best stuff, and this is one of my favorites. Okay, this is the play of the week. I've been sitting on this all week, and I've been dying to. It's moved from 240.5 passing yards to 250.5 right now, where it is on DraftKings. It doesn't matter. It's an absolute smash overplay. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, DTR for UCLA against USC. He is currently at 250.5 passing yards. Each of the past 3 seasons, when USC plays UCLA, DTR saves his best for the Trojans. Each of the past 4 years. The minimum passing total he's had, 346 yards against USC. Each of the past 3 years. That's the minimum. Yeah. Oh, he's done more. He's gone for more than 346. That's the baseline that we're working with. 3 straight years. This game is going over. This is the UNC Wake Forest of last week, where we just spray the board and blanket it overs because that game was going over. This is what's happening with USC UCLA. You mark my words, okay? DTR is going to sail over 250. It's borderline insulting. I've got a freaking mortgage payment on him this week. He's going over 250, okay? It's just a matter of who else he's bringing with him. Because this game's going over. There will be fireworks in this game. There always is, and it's happening. It's in South California. Let me personally assure you. Let me look outside. Yep. Oh, weather's fine.
Weather's great.
We're good on the weather. No problem there. Get ready for a shootout. DTR, pound that. Pound it.
All right.
I love it. I'm going to the same game, and I think we talked about this. Listen, Eric, I know you love these advanced metrics and everything, and I'm looking at these advanced metrics, offense versus defense. And if you want to color coordinate them, blue being good or green being good and red being bad or pink being bad, literally offensive side, all blue or green. Defensive side, all red or pink. Basically what that means is these offenses are performing at such a high level and their defenses cannot catch a cold. For me, it's Caleb Williams over 2.5 passing touchdowns. One of the highest success rates of the past in college football. I think they're 12th in offensive pass success rate. Their game in the red zone is basically pretty vanilla in terms of what you know is going to happen. Caleb Williams is going to run the ball or he's going to throw the ball. I don't think UCLA is stopping him in the red zone. Why? You want to look at some of their numbers? Let's look at this. Let's go EPA against the pass, 71st. Oh, no, 90th for UCLA. Let's see. Defensive pass success rate, 103rd. This is going to be a game where you just smash overs like Eric said. And you know what's kind of funny? I haven't locked this one in because I want to see, how many adult waters I have before this game starts. But I'm probably going to be on Charbonnet's rushing yards over too. I guess it'd be one of those games where we see like 150 rushing yards from UCLA and over 350 passing yards. USC, their running game is not as strong. Charbonnet has hit his number in like last 5 out of 6 games. So I don't want to test. I don't want to test the USC running game, but I definitely will test overs in quarterbacks, receivers, and Charbonnet.
All fronts, all with you, especially on when it comes to Caleb Williams' touchdowns. Keep in mind, Travis Dye is gone. You got hurt last week.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Oregon last year was the engine of that offense. Again, he's been the guy all season. They'll now have an Austin Jones / Rayleigh Brown sort of rotation. We don't know how that'll look. Obviously, both of those are pretty intriguing overs in terms of rushing yards for me. I believe Jones is like in the 65.5 range. And I think Brown is all the way down like 28.5, maybe 30 range. Yeah. Those are both pretty intriguing. We don't know how that usage is going to suss out, but both are pretty reasonable considering, as we discussed, UCLA has the 98th ranked defense overall, performance-wise in the country. USC has the 91st. USC's ranked 119th in rushing performance. That's almost inconceivable, And Zach Charbonnet, who I consider to be a top 5 NFL worthy running back, I have him to like RB5 right now. Yeah. I love Charbonnet. I think he's excellent. And USC's given up a 47% success rate on defense, 115th. So, they all point to the over, baby. I'm with you.
Yeah. Even like we said on the other side, 44% success rate for UCLA on defense. Like, we're saying these numbers for you guys so you guys can just hear what's going to happen in these games. Yards will be had. Yards and points. It's going to be one of those games. Let's move over to the People's Parlay. Let's smack this baby this week. Oh, I'm so excited about the People's Parlay this week. I'm going to start first. Ohio State team total over 44.5. Adding that to the parlay. Listen, I talked about Maryland last week, and I was really, really specific. Maryland are one of the worst in defensive touchdown rates at 25%. And you know who's number one in the country at defensive touchdown rate on offense? The Ohio State Buckeyes. They're scoring touchdowns on 53% of their possessions. And unlike Penn State, Ryan Day goes for blood. And he will especially go for blood because of the most important game of the week next week, the game. Because they want to put on another statement. If they go out here and they hang 50 on the road against Maryland, but somehow lose to Michigan, they want to make sure that they have a viable chance to make the college football playoff without the Big Ten championship and a home loss on their resume. They're probably going to get both Williams and TreVeyon Henderson back. I guess I've been on a cruise, but you better believe I was sniffing my nose around the beat reporters to see what they said. Ryan Day said he would be shocked if he doesn't have both running backs back. That opens up the game so much. Maryland's terrible against run, terrible against the pass. So that's my part of the parlay. Vaughn, tell me what you like about the other team that's playing in the game.
That's right. We're going to take Michigan minus 17. I wouldn't talk you off a team total over 29.5 here, though, either. I think they could score 30 on Illinois. We love Illinois and Chase Brown and company, but Chase Brown hasn't been the same the past 2 weeks. We've talked about him being banged up and injured, leaving the game twice in the past 2 weeks. And we saw 23 points in Michigan State, 31 by Purdue. You see Illinois kind of losing that drive for the season after doing so well, having one loss for the first 7, 8, 9 weeks of the year. But what I'll say is the look-ahead spots for everyone. We want to fit Ohio State and Michigan this week. Historically, it just hasn't been the way to do it for them. I mean, Michigan crushed Maryland last year, 59-18 before they played Ohio State. They beat Indiana the past 2 years, 39-14 and 31-20. They let off the gas in the 2018 game. I just don't see enough offense for Illinois here against Michigan with Chase Brown banged up. So give me the Wolverines in a 12 p.m. game where we will not be surprised if Michigan's up 17-0 at halftime.
Yeah, totally agree. Brad did say Henderson is playing, but Mayan Williams is out. Books didn't even release lines for this game on my side. So on the player props, I would load the heck up on Henderson and what's his last name? What's his name? Dallas, and load up on Dallas. Dallin looked great. He looked great. But Eric, go ahead and tell me what you like Auburn.
Yeah, I like Auburn at the -5.5. Frankly, look, I get it. Brian Harsin gets fired. You have You have the interim head coach, Cadillac Williams, who is very, very, let's say, ball control oriented in his offensive philosophy. They went out and they just mauled Texas A&M last week with 277 rushing yards. In fact, I want to say Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter both had over 100. In fact, I think they both had exactly 112 where the players dwell, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be pretty simple what they want to do. Auburn is going to simply bludgeon a smaller, undersized front of Western Kentucky. And with WKU, where they really are up against it here is you look at who they've played, okay, and their wins, who they've came against. I mean, you can run it down. Austin Peay, Hawaii, one of the 5 worst teams in all of FBS. FIU, one of the 5 worst teams in FBS. Middle Tennessee, great defense. UAB, fine. Charlotte's one, again, 3 of the 5 worst teams in the country. And then mercifully, Rice. You look at their losses, Indiana. That's the best team they've played was Indiana. They lost to them. Troy, solid team. Another good team in UTSA and North Texas. When they've played quality opponents, they have not been able to live up to that standard. Now they're going up against an SEC team where you have an interim coach, you have a team that's fighting for respectability. They just coming off a win off of A&M where they laid the blueprint. I just think they steamroll Western Kentucky, control the ball for 40 minutes of clock time, and just simply lean on them. I can't believe it's only at 5.5. Take it.
It's actually 5 everywhere now. So
it's
I got
5
you
everywhere
5
now.
on.
Great.
I got you 5 for the parlay. Better number.
It's just too much. It's just too much talent, too much beef.
This is a home game for Auburn.
They're going to be throwing, but
yeah,
good luck.
This is like a big deal for Auburn. The Iron Bowl next week, they want to come into the Iron Bowl with some momentum. Like, this is a big deal for Auburn to win this game here. Me being the resident Alabama guy, they massive game because they don't want to come in here with an ugly loss and then have to play Alabama. That's just not beautiful. So let me go through the People's Parlay one more time for you guys. Ohio State team total over 44.5. Auburn -5. Michigan -17. Odds +554. Oh my God. Those are beautiful odds. I need to make sure I lock that in the next 5 minutes so we can get racked up here real quick. Before we move on, guys, I want to invite you to play Irish Pick'em. Play college football Pick'em on the NBC Sports Predictor app for your chance to win $10,000. It's free and it's easy to play. From first downs to touchdowns, you can win big. Feel free to enter with plenty of cash prizes. Go download the NBC Sports Predictor app. All right. The next big game. I feel like we pretty much covered this, but
pretty much.
Let's keep going. USC -2 at UCLA over 76.5. I think Eric has one more play in this game that he didn't give out. If you want to go ahead. Oh my God, Eric. Love the jersey, by the way.
Absolutely. Look, even though I had the hockey jersey on from my old Seek and Destroy days back at Route 1 in Saugus, shout out Peter Welsh, Igor Carpiers. Appreciate you guys. Anyways, I love Charbonnet. As we talked about with Charbonnet, USC has not been able to stop opposing running backs. And I think that goes both for the rushing, but you got to remember, Zach Charbonnet is an extremely accomplished receiving back. Now, he was listed, I believe at DraftKings, he's listed at 33.5 in terms of where his current line is. However, if you go over to FanDuel, he's at 28.5 in his receiving yards line. And that's an important mark because, as discussed, he's very talented out of the backfield. Last week, 11 targets against Arizona. Again, that was a game script in which they were trailing. Okay, I think we could very well see a similar game script against the USC Trojans here this game. And if so, I think you see a repeat. 9 of 11 he caught for 38 yards. Great. Previous game against Stanford, 5 of 5, 61. Previous game before that, Oregon, 4 of 4 for 28. 55 against Washington, 51 against South Alabama, 36 against Bowling Green. Okay. So in terms of the 9 games she's participated in, he's gone over in 7 of them. Okay. And then again, the games where he went under, game script was really a big factor. Colorado, he didn't get a single reception because they didn't need to do anything against Colorado. You know what I mean? It's going to be a game script where they're going to have to put the pedal to the metal against USC. They're going to have to pull out all the stops. Chip Kelly is not afraid. Again, we're talking about running it up. If they get up, he isn't going to stop. This is Chip Kelly we're talking about. I just think all the scenarios that we're going to be going and could happen in this game, many of them point to a pretty easy 28.5 over for Zach Charbonnet. I'm going to take those receiving yards.
I like that receiving yard number. I don't think like you said, I don't think I had that number available, or I was just salivating over his rushing total.
I get it.
I didn't lock it in. Vaughn, do you have any plays from this game?
I am praying and hoping for a UCLA win because we have the over 8.5 wins for this season.
Do. And I have the Pac-12 championship.
Likewise as well. Actually, today is a huge day for futures, ladies and gentlemen. So anybody that tell UCLA, we need them to win either today or next week. We win 2 units. Marshall, we need them to win today or next week, and we win 2 units. Yes. UCF, we need them to win today or next week, and we win 2 units. So today's potentially a 6-unit futures day. It's a big day, a great day to be alive. But if you are asking me who I'd be taking this side, it is UCLA. Travis Dye is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I love DTR and Charbonnet, what they could do. I don't think either team plays defense here. 76 is too high. We all sat here and said, yeah, we like the over North Carolina, Wake Forest. Like, why would you not play the over? But the under hit. Might have been too many points, yes. But at the same time, this is another game where if we see a 38-34, the under still hits. So I'd rather just take the underdog here or take all these player props you guys are giving out because I love all these angles of attack. Should be plenty of points, plenty of yards. Play the dog or pass.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that. And, 2 things that I love to look for. When you think a game's going to be low scoring, you take player prop unders. You think a game's going to be high scoring, you take player prop overs. You don't have to dictate the score because so many fluky things can happen in a game. Before this show, I went on and I looked at my record in player props, and I'm hitting at 62%, which is by far the highest percentage out of any player props sides and totals. And I went back and I went and looked at where I kind of made mistakes or might have lost in some of those, backing road favorites, number one, no. Backing totals. Backing totals that were like in the high 60s against a team like one massive favorite versus a bad team. So basically the massive favorite scores 40 points. The other scores 14 and then I lose the over. But with props, game script's a little bit more manageable. You don't need to always convert touchdowns to kind of hit there. So I like that you said that. Let's move over to the money. Okay,
I've got good news for Vaughn and you, though.
Uh-oh.
Even if UCLA doesn't win this week, you've got Cal looming for week 13.
Yes.
It's going to be fine, guys. It's going to be fine.
I wouldn't be shocked, but I'll say there's a great hedge opportunity next week. That's what
great hedge
UCLA loses today. There's a very easy hedge opportunity next week.
Yeah, I gave out I tried to get the Barstool line at 8. So I'm sitting on an offshore at 8.5. I was so mad, but we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it.
You're gonna get it anyway. You're fine.
Let's move over, guys, to our money line sprinkles. I'm gonna start with mine. As you guys know, I really love hitting these things. Like, we get North Carolina last week. I was like drooling. This week, I'm going with Arizona plus 150 against Washington State. A lot of that has to do with of how I'm going to attack this game in a prop that I'll talk about a little bit later. But if we look at Arizona throughout the season, they've hung tough with some of the best teams in the country. Of course, they got mollywopped by Oregon. They got mollywopped by Utah. But against Washington, they held their own. Again, they beat UCLA. They held their own against USC. Now Washington State has to travel in the middle of the day game. Yeah, go ahead and give me Arizona. I think Arizona's passing attack is going to be, a lot to deal with. If they get up early like they did against UCLA, it's going to be hard for Washington and company to kind of come back against the Arizona team who can just keep.
Looks like we lost Brad.
Oh, we got a little feed.
That's fine.
Okay, I'll go with mine. I like Oklahoma State, frankly, over Oklahoma. Somebody's got to explain to me why Oklahoma is a full 7.5 point favorite at this point over OSU. What exactly have they done in order to deserve this? We saw last week playing up against West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia is about as easy a game as you're going to get in the Big 12, which has got a lot of parity this year. They couldn't beat the Mountaineers. They lost 23-20 to them. I mean, this isn't the dominant Oklahoma team that we've seen before. And even the game that they had against Kansas, where they won, they had a 30% post-game win expectancy. Actually, not even that. Excuse me, they had a 17% win expectancy against Kansas. They still managed to pull it out. I don't know how. Oklahoma State's a different team with Spencer Sanders in. We saw Gunnar Gundy. Bless Gunnar Gundy, nepotism in action. They simply could not get the job done last week. In comes Spencer Sanders in the fourth quarter, and he led them down the field and looked great. I'm not sure. Obviously, he's banged up. Obviously, he didn't start, but he finished that game in very credible fashion. Everything that you're looking at in the, leading up to this game, Spencer Sanders himself, when interviewed and asked, is adamant he's playing. When asked Gundy, he said, look, it's all up to Spencer Sanders. If he wants to play, it's up to him. If he feels it, we're going to go with what he says. He's adamant. He's playing. He finished out the last game. This is a different team with him under center because he's a 4-year experienced starter as opposed to a guy, again, last name Gundy, who is in there and is completely inexperienced, going to get rolled. That's a big difference in this game. You're talking about a plus 283 between a couple teams that with Spencer Sanders, I feel like they're pretty equal this year. This is not an impressive Oklahoma team. Forget it. This is Bedlam. Getting 3-1 odds.
Bedlam.
Give me Oklahoma State. Give me the sprinkle, baby. All day.
I like it. I had to try and outdo you with mine. The first one isn't a surprise because we said Baylor, right? I'm going to continue trying to take down these horror frogs, to wrangle these Texans and lay them down. But if you're looking to end your night on a crazy note, why not go with the Rainbows? Rainbow Warriors of Hawaii. Listen, it might sound crazy, but they're getting UNLV. These teams stink. Like, Eric, you were talking about UNLV the other day against San Diego State, and I was like, I don't know what you saw because what I saw was not very good. But this team has been terrible on the road this year.
You finally beat me on a burger bet. Oh,
no, I'm just saying.
Well, I won on TCU, Texas. So we split last week, but you owned me on that one. You owned me.
Yeah. I'm not trying to talk smack because I'm saying that UNLV just, I don't think, has looked good from the game before that on.
Oh,
and then you look at Hawaii, their only wins this year came at home. This is the last home game of the year. This has been a terrible season for them and the new coaching staff. They're just looking for anything to end the season on a high note. They're 11-point underdogs, and I'm just thinking at plus 310. Would you be shocked if you woke up and saw Hawaii beat UNLV by 3 or 4 points? Not at all. I'm probably going to end my night on a little Hawaii sprinkle. But Baylor is the main one.
That's great. I actually had that in my early lines column because it opened up at 8.5. Plus 8.5 for Hawaii, and obviously went up to, I think we're at plus 11.5 right now, or somewhere in that ballpark. And it's funny because you mentioned Hawaii. Look, you don't realize it, but it's so tough doing that trip from Las Vegas out to Hawaii. In Hawaii's last 9 games as a home underdog, they're 8-0-1. Okay.
Wow.
It's a tough place to play, and they're always you're always getting points when they're at home. You know what I mean? I mean, sure, they're not great, and they're changing over. They got Timmy Chang who's coming in as a first-year head coach, coming off that catastrophic Todd Graham era. But you got to remember, UNLV has a banged-up Doug Brumfield, the quarterback, and they rank 119th in passing efficiency with him. Okay. Their defense is 108 nationally. This is a bad team. They've had a sub 10% post-game win expectancy in each of the last 5 games. They're just not a good team. And traveling to Hawaii, Vaughn, I'm with you, buddy.
We got some good money line sprinkles in that one. Did you already talk about your Baylor one, Vaughn? I cut out a little bit.
Yeah. No, we held you down here, Captain. Yeah,
nice.
We're not surprised.
All right, let's talk about some more player props then. Eric, tell us what you like in Purdue versus Indiana.
Purdue, Indiana, of course. And it's funny, we've had a few Purdue, it seems like, plays over the past few weeks. And I got another one. Dude, Devin Mockabee is at 74.5. And I've had this queued up for the show all week where he's been at that minus 115 on DraftKings. He since pre-show in the morning when I went and did everything is actually up to minus 145 now, right before the show when I checked. I've already locked this in. I locked this in a couple days ago. I think you probably should see the rushing yards move up because in West Lafayette over there, for Purdue, the winds are whipping a little bit. It's like 15 to 18 miles per hour, but there's 34-mile-an-hour gusts. Something to be aware of. That's it is what it is. It's not supposed to snow until later in the afternoon today, so we shouldn't see any snow, but there will be wind. And obviously, Devin Mockabee, he has been a revelation for Purdue. This isn't a team that is accustomed to running the ball. We saw him last year. They just didn't feel comfortable running at all after Xander Horvath went down. King Daru had a couple games, but just he wasn't a guy you could depend on consistently. Since Dylan Downing went down, Mockabee has taken over, and he has clearly established himself as the bell cow alpha in that running back room. He's gone over 100 yards in 3 of the past 4. Obviously, you're playing an Indiana team. This is Indiana, guys. Okay? Indiana Hoosiers. Not remotely concerned about anything that they have to offer for defensive resistance. And on offense, they are a top 5 team in terms of pace. They hum. They're going. They're like 18 seconds per play, in between plays. This is a team that wants to go. As we know, Purdue, they play at a quick pace too and like to throw a ball around. It's a great game script. I see Purdue winning. I see him being in control. I see Mockabee at 74.5, just an exceptional value. Take that over.
I like that a lot. Let's get into, I'll go to my play. I only put half a unit on this. But man, how can you not take Jayden de Laura over 282 passing yards in a game that he said himself is personal? Oh, come on. Like, anytime I hear it, for those who don't know, he played for Washington State. Now he plays for Arizona. He's going to get the volume. Whenever I want to take a quarterback over, I want them throwing the ball 30, 40 times a game. In the games where he didn't hit this total was in the games that got absolutely stifled against Utah. They got destroyed in that game against Utah where they lost 45-20. He only threw the ball for about 170, 160 yards. And against Oregon, another game where they got absolutely stifled. I am not of the mind to think that Washington State is coming out here, traveling to Arizona and stifling anybody. And one thing that's going to correlate with these games that makes me a little bit more confident in backing de Laura is it's not like the volume wasn't there in those games. He had sub 60% passing percentage in those games, completion percentage. All the other games, he's floating around 63, 64%, even as high as 71%. So if you have the volume, you have the percentage, and you're going against a Washington State secondary who's not the best. I wouldn't say they're terrible, but they're not going to go over here and lock people down. They don't have a bunch of shutdown corners on that secondary. I like de Laura. I'm not going crazy with it. This is sometimes when you get those emotions evolved in games, players can land absolute dud. But when he had me at the second, and he said this is personal. I had to put a bet on it.
I would not be talking you off of that. Anytime a player has those type of statements, the player prop better, you back him. You're betting the over. Which,
absolutely.
Never hear that from Spencer Petras, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, Eric, you have another play in this game. Did you already give it out yet with Wiley?
No, I've not given it out yet.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Dr. Wiley, Mega Man's nemesis. And he's our nemesis this week, too, because I'm going under 77.5 rushing yards. Now, long-time listener to this show know we've done the Arizona dance, with the running back room that has been extremely unsettled all season. What I like about Wiley is, again, it's been an inconsistent room. We haven't really been able to ascertain who's going to be getting the carries from week-to-week basis. Last week it was Wiley, okay? This feels like a reactionary line to me. 21 carries for 97 yards against UCLA. Again, they were up on UCLA. They were comfortable, in control. That's fine, but that was a shootout waiting to happen against two defenses that are just ready to let each team do whatever they want. And they did. It was an absolute track meet. The game beforehand, 5 carries against Utah. Game before that, 10 carries, 49 yards against USC. 6 carries for 10 against Oregon. Utah, Oregon, USC, all decent teams in which the game script is they're kind of coming from behind a little bit. When that happens, he's not going to get 21 carries again. That's obviously a season high, career high, and is unlikely to be replicated. The only times he's come close, Colorado, he had 16 carries. Again, this is Colorado, the worst team in the Pac-12. Cal, he had 14. I don't see it happening that way against Washington State, who, frankly, is a little bit underrated. 40th against the run. Actually, better. They're 40th overall. 21st against the run is Washington State. Exceptional. 30th in terms of suppressing explosive plays. 1.8 points per drive. 27th. All right. This defense is much better than they get credit for. And Nakia Watson has gone over 110 yards each of the past 2 games since he came back from injury. So they can control the clock in a way that previous Washington State teams just simply couldn't. I love the 77.5 under here on Wiley. I think it's a reactionary line by Vegas where they think that he's going to have 21 carries a week. I simply don't see that happening.
I like that a lot. Vaughn, tell me why you're fading the Wolfpack today.
What do you? I mean, do I have to explain why we're going to take Fresno State against Nevada? I mean, we've been fading Nevada for at least 4, 5, 6 weeks now.
Oh, yeah.
But Nevada, Old Faithful, 1-7 ATS, 0-8 on the money line the last 8 games. At home, they're 1-4 ATS, 0-4. I mean, I got a couple Old Faithfuls in each sport. Nevada's definitely been one of them. I saw again. This is going to be the 3rd time I brought this up on a show this year. I want to say 3rd time in the last 5 weeks that someone has won $1 million in Vegas during the course of a week, and they've taken $220,000 or $200,000 and played Nevada's spread. You got to stop doing that, man. Who's saying $200,000? I have this. Let's bet it on the Nevada Wolfpack. Like, that's a terrible idea.
It's one of the worst.
The worst idea. But in the last 4 home games for Nevada, they've been outscored 141-64. They have no offense. Another game where the weather could keep this as a ground game. And Fresno State, listen to this. This is a part of capping that we don't talk about a whole lot for game script capping in NFL, college football, NBA, whatever. But line functionality will tell you when the books really like a team. Fresno State has not covered the spread in the last 3 meetings against Nevada. Listen to what the spreads were. 12.5 back in 2018. We had a +6.5 for Fresno State, then a -3.5 for Fresno State. It went from -3.5 out to -22. They're telling you Fresno State is about to lay the smack down on Nevada. So give me the Bulldogs.
Well, it's a good point there you make, too.
The Bulldogs.
Yeah, good point with Nevada, because they were good the past couple of years because they had Jay Norvell, and it was year 5 for him, years 4 and 5 of his tenure in Nevada. And he had like all his recruits that he had, cultivated and brought up, and that's why they're good. Now he's gone. He took everybody. It is a whole new deck there in Nevada. Great stuff on.
That's great. Let's go ahead and answer a couple of questions here. Thoughts on the timeshare of Hayden versus Henderson, with Henderson coming off the foot injury? I think it's very important to know that Ryan Day is not going to push the limits after knowing what Hayden can do. 109 rushing yards. I think he had 102 rushing yards on 19 attempts last game. This game, they're going to blow them out. They don't need to win this game on the ground. It's all about the game. I've talked to Ohio State guys. I've talked to Michigan guys. It is all they've been thinking about for the past 4 weeks, because this is going to be one of the best matchups between the two in recent years. And then I also think they'll be able to get a little bit of confidence as well in knowing what Penn State were able to do. If Katron Allen didn't play a lot of that scrub time, like, the early third quarter when they were blowing them out 30-0, I believe it was.
30-0.
He would have broke 100. Singleton broke 100 on 11 carries. So I think that if you want to play Hayden, if you want to play him any kind of props, I think it's acceptable. He proved to be a shining light, and that Ohio State is blessed to have a complement of 3 really good running backs. You have a thought on this, Eric?
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't seen any Hayden lines out there for props purposes. If you can, I mean, I think that's a great spot since he went for over 100, as you mentioned, the last game. Obviously, no Mayan Williams. He is the clear number 2, and they're not going to want to work over Travion Henderson. I mean, everything points to that. I haven't seen any props out for Hayden. I'd love to get a piece of it. DFS, I think he's an absolute smash.
Yeah, absolute smash. What's crazy is the only props I was able to see for Hayden, like I didn't find. He's up at the top of the board now. I didn't see his anytime touchdown. I only saw 2 touchdowns.
Oh, anytime touchdown. Okay.
Anytime's -130. I just don't like taking juice on touchdown scorers. Yeah. Running backs does make it a little happy, but you have to remember he's still a backup running
No
back.
yardage, huh? Still no yardage?
Yeah, still
Probably.
no yardage up available.
That's smart because that's an overweight and a half. And I don't
Over
even know
smash.
whatever they're going to set it at. I mean, you got to go over. It'll probably be at like 50, 60, 70 maybe, and he's gonna beat it.
He's going to absolutely smash that.
Yeah. I'm with you.
With the World Cup coming up, I will answer this question. I don't like answering questions of other sports on the show, but guys, as you see, I do have the United States banner that I just hung up in honor of this week. It's going to be my busiest week in my entire life, my busiest month. I'm super excited. No, answer to this question, no. The United States is not going to beat England. USA will be lucky to advance out of the group. I do have them advancing out of the group because the price was right when I got it like 2 months ago. That was before Wales was priced in there. But no, they're not going to. Greg Berhalter, one of the best defensive minds in tactics and in all football, but they just don't have the quality in front of net to score on England. All right, let's go back to what we love.
Casual cap.
What? Ball, yeah, casual. Real casual threw that one in there. Listen, I want to make sure everyone gets all of their plays in. I'm out of plays, so I'm going to kick the next play over to Eric and tell me what you like about or dislike this particular Duke running back.
Oh, yeah, well, absolutely. You have Jordan Roger Waters here, Duke, 54.5 rushing yards on DraftKings. Now, you got to remember with the Duke backfield, you got 3 guys in there that are pretty good and have been shuttling in and out of the lineup over the course of the year. Jalen Coleman was hurt. He is now back. He came back last week, got 13 carries, looked pretty good. He was the number 1 running back before his injury. Otherwise, Waters had been splitting with their number 3. Last week, Waters did have 16 carries for 61 yards while Coleman was there. However, that was against the lowly Virginia Tech Hokies, who were absolutely terrible. They're, objectively terrible. I think they're 10-point dogs to Liberty. No offense, Liberty's fine, but like, dude, you're an ACC team here. So that's, you go and you do that against Virginia Tech. That's one thing. This week they're playing Pitt. Okay, Pitt's defense is legit. It always is. The Nard dog, Pat Narduzzi, knows how to call a D. And frankly, developmentally, who develops defensive players better than Pat Narduzzi, especially on the line? Like, the Pittsburgh's legit when it comes to their player development. I love them. When it comes to Duke, obviously Elko's done a great job. He is in the running for Coach of the Year. But, look, you have certain barriers, certain glass ceilings you have. Duke is good. It's been a great season. Pitt's just defense is legit. And when you have a 3-man running back rotation like they have that are all going to be getting carries, looking at a likely game script where I feel like Pitt will probably be able to get up and at least have some sort of a lead, I think there's a lot of conjecture involved who gets these carries. And I think Jordan Waters at 54.5, I think he's on the short side of that platoon. I think you're going to see Coleman have most of the carries, and I see it'll be Waters and the number 3 who kind of be in that secondary role. So against a good run defense, questionable distribution of carries, coming off, 61 yards, one of the high, I think it's the second highest total he had for the year for Jordan Waters. I just think there's a reactionary line that isn't looking at the full picture, and you're going to get an under here at 54.5.
Love it, love it, love it. Vaughn, you are fading the FIU Panthers. Listen, before you go, I didn't handicap this game. I just saw UTEP come across, and I was like, man, who's UTEP playing? And I go, oh, yeah, absolutely fade Florida International. Tell me why you like UTEP.
Yeah, I like to target bad teams and fade them. And if they surprise us, so be it, I guess. But at the same time, I picked the 4 or 5 teams that have treated me well, and I've felt comfortable betting in this past couple of weeks, and they've all been laying double digits this week. Shows you how far these teams have come since being underdogs 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. But UTEP, in particular, have been a pretty good team all season. They need to win these next 2 games to be bowl eligible. Their backs are against the wall now after dropping 3 of their last 4 games. But FIU, we fade them every time they're on the road because the past 2 road games, they allowed 52 points to our North Texas Mean Green, and then they allowed 52 points to Florida Atlantic in a rivalry game. So their 2 wins before that were against Charlotte and Louisiana Tech, which we all made fun of on this show because they are terrible teams and bottom 5 teams. FIU continues to be a bottom 10 team. So, this is senior day for the Miners. Yep. They need a big dub. And the last time these teams played a couple years ago, which was actually the seniors on this team would have been freshmen then in 2019, the last time they played. They'd be either freshmen or sophomores. They lost 32-27 as 25-point underdogs.
Wow.
Florida National was a 20.5-point home favorite against UTEP back when these seniors were freshmen or sophomores. So happy senior day, Miners. Let's go.
Happy senior day. Okay, Eric, go ahead and lay it for us. I know you have a couple plays.
I'll get two quick ones out of the way.
Yeah.
Jordan Houston, running back, NC State, under 16.5 rushing yards. And I also like Thayer Thomas's under 58 receiving yards for NC State. And the reason why is very, very simple. Jack return to the 36 Chambers is back. We're flashing the woo sign. We've got Jack Chambers. I wish we had a prop on him. I wish I could get his passing yards again, which is one of my favorite plays of the year. But with MJ Morris out, who looked great, this team, Jordan Houston, going to be facing 8-man boxes. Just start thinking about it because we know Chambers can't throw. He can't. Same thing for Thayer Thomas. He's the only guy who was even remotely usable over the course of that last game when Chambers started and MJ Morris came in. When Morris came in, they were able to actually complete some passes and Thomas went over. But I just don't see it again. Stack boxes against Jordan Houston. You got 14 carries for 71 yards last week against Boston College. The previous 7 out of the previous 8 games before that 71 yards, he went under this 60.5 yards mark. What do you want from me here? Everything pointing towards the unders here for NC State. You just have to do it. Bad quarterback, bad matchups. That's all. And then lastly, before you can get it in, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver, Georgia. You got to give it to McConkey. Okay? He's the number 1 wide receiver at Georgia with Adonai Mitchell out. They pound him with targets. He's absolutely part of that passing attack. They're playing Kentucky, who is listless. I mean, Kentucky just got rolled by South Carolina.
Yep.
That is tough. But this is they just got, I think they scored 6 points last week. It was like 44-6 they got beat by Georgia. It's just, they're playing Georgia. They're going to do whatever they want against Kentucky this week. It's going to be a bloodbath. Give me McConkey over 51.5 receiving yards.
I love it. Let's answer this question from our favorite Marty.
Marty,
do you think UConn pulls off another upset against Army? Army is not a very good team. What UConn is doing is special this year. I think they're bowl eligible, right?
They're
because
right there.
If they lose these last 2 games, they're still 5-1. Yeah. Oh my God. Why not sprinkle it? I don't have a reason of why you wouldn't. Plus 300. I think the game's at home too, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
It's
on the road. It's at Army.
Yeah. Which has not stopped the Huskies from winning games this year whatsoever.
Behind enemy lines, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
Dude,
Army
Junior. Yeah.
He's just turning around. Army still has 2 games after this. So this is a bigger game for UConn than it is for Army.
It is.
I definitely would not talk you off a UConn sprinkle. I mean, they beat Boston College, UMass, and Liberty, and a couple of those victories were handily the past few weeks.
Liberty's had 1 loss, I believe, maybe 2. Like they've been awesome. And also, I mean, props to Marty. Marty's had some pretty good recommendations on this show over the course of this 12 weeks. And I know his hit rate's been excellent. So, hey, I'm not going to tell you no, my man.
Let's get after it. I'm going to go ahead and recap some of our plays real quick for the ones we gave out in the beginning for those who just joined. But if you are watching, make sure you drop a like, smash that like button. We really appreciate that. I'll just go through mine. Mine are quick. Caleb Williams of USC over 2.5 passing touchdowns. Kendre Miller of TCU over 109 rushing yards. That's a half unit. And I also parlayed Caleb Williams over 299 passing yards with Miller over 89.5. Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State over 89.5 receiving yards. And Delora of Arizona over 282 passing yards. Go ahead, Vaughn. Tell us some of yours.
Best bet of the day is going to be the Boise State Broncos laying 14 points. We're also going to be on the UTEP Miners laying 14 points. We're going to fade Nevada as always, taking Fresno minus 22. And then we're taking Michigan in the look-ahead spot. They will not fail us today against Illinois. That'll be our only early game. We're taking them minus 17. So 4 big favorites today. Spencer Petras, under 140.5 passing yards, down to 135. Under 0.5 passing touchdowns. And then I'm also going to be looking at Hawaii tonight. We got them on the money line sprinkle along with Baylor. I probably will play the Hawaii plus 10 or 11 because Eric talked me into it, and we'll sure to have something on UCLA USC tonight with the boys. NBA plays as well today. Check out Twitter for that, though.
Nice. I'll wrap up mine. DTR over 250.5. Maccabee over 74.5. Charbonnet over 28.5 receiving. Jordan Waters under 54.5 rushing. Jordan Houston, we got 2 Jordans in there, under 60.5 yards rushing. Lad McConkey over 51.5 receiving yards. Michael Wiley under 77.5. And then our 3 favorites that have been right as rain each week, under Jaden Knott 71.5. Under Spencer Rattler, one of the 2 Spencer's gifts all season long. We appreciate them. That's where we shop. Yes. 186 passing. And dangerous Dominic Richardson, under 70.5 rushing yards. That'll be like the 5th time I've cashed on him this year.
Love it.
Let's go.
Love it. Let's go, y'all. I'm at the Florida Classic today. FAMU versus Bethune-Cookman. I'm actually going to go with the Rattlers to win this one. Guys, I hope you win a ton of money. And thanks for checking us out. For Vaughn and Eric, I'm Brad Thomas. Talk to you guys next week.